They call it a dream, but it is a dream of sleepers, fat sleepers, suffocating in their own pillows. The American dream. What a phrase of narcotic sweetness. It promises comfort for all, a house with a smiling roof, 2 cars as metallic idols in the driveway, a belly full of food and a mind empty of questions. Yet, I tell you, this dream is not a vision of ascent, but of descent. It is a lullaby sung to lull mankind into mediocrity. The people boast of equality and opportunity. They say, "Here every man may rise." But what do they rise into? Into offices and shopping malls, into debt and insurance policies, into the great gray sameness of the herd. They call this freedom. Yet, it is the freedom of the grazing animal, fattened until slaughter. Look closely. Behind the glittering promise lies a profound weariness, the weariness of a culture that no longer dares to demand greatness. The dream is a mask. Beneath its painted smile lurks fear of struggle, hatred of suffering, terror of true distinction. It is the religion of the herd, and it teaches its catechism in jingles, advertisements, and campaign slogans. Yes, the dream is a lie. It is not a ladder to the stars, but a soft bed on which humanity lies down to rot. What they call opportunity is obedience. What they call security is slavery. What they call prosperity is decay. The dreamer is already half dead, embalmed in comfort before the grave is even dug. Comfort. That sweet poison which drips into the veins of a people until they forget how to move, how to climb, how to fight. Comfort does not make man strong. It makes him tame. The American kneels before his armchair as before an altar. He worships his central heating, his air conditioning, his soft bed, his endless stream of conveniences. And in this worship, he becomes less than human. He becomes domesticated, like a pampered house pet, neutered of its wildness. Comfort is not life. It is the slow death of life. Where there is comfort, there is no creation. Great works do not arise from softness. No temple was built, no philosophy born, no symphony written by a man content to sit and sip endlessly at the cup of ease. Every greatness has sprung from discomfort, from danger, from the harsh pressure of necessity. But the dream teaches the opposite. It whispers, be safe, be cozy, avoid risk, avoid pain, and thus the great sedative flows into the arteries of the nation. No need to climb mountains when escalators abound. No need to wrestle with gods when insurance covers calamity. No need to forge a soul when entertainment is available 24 hours a day. This comfort, this anesthesia of existence, is not harmless. It is the breeding ground of boredom, of depression, of nihilism. For the human being who suffers nothing, creates nothing. Without struggle, man grows tired of himself, yawns at his own life, and seeks new distractions, more drugs, brighter screens, anything but the terrible, magnificent labor of becoming. Yes, comfort is decay. It is the perfume that hides the stench of rotting will. A civilization devoted to comfort is already writing its epitaph. It does not live, it waits for its own funeral, safety. This is the new God before which America bows. No longer Yahweh, no longer Christ, but the sacred insurance policy, the holy security system, the blessed seatbelt. The temples of this cult are everywhere. Banks promising peace of mind, politicians preaching protection, advertisements declaring that danger itself has been outlawed. The herd cries, "Keep us safe," from sickness, from crime, from poverty, from ourselves. They demand that life itself be wrapped in padding, that existence be reduced to the smooth surface of a playground with no sharp edges. Yet man is not meant to be safe. He is meant to risk, to suffer, to grow. Safety is slavery disguised as care. Look at the faces of the worshippers of this religion. Anxious, suspicious, always calculating risks, always seeking guarantees. They no longer live, they ensure. They no longer venture, they wait for permission. Safety is their heaven, and their hell is danger. But where danger is absent, life too is absent. A people without danger is a people without destiny. In this religion of safety, the highest commandment is obedience. Do not dare, do not wander, do not exceed the prescribed speed or step outside the protective fence. And so, the herd grows tame. The strong are bound by regulations, the bold mocked as reckless, and the soul's wings are clipped before it can attempt to fly. I spoke of those who would rather live securely as slaves than dangerously as free men. America has built an empire of cages, each painted in bright colors, each called a home, each filled with citizens who mistake their confinement for paradise. Safety promises life, but delivers only survival. Survival alone is not worthy of man. To worship safety is to renounce greatness. It is to choose chains over wings. Where danger disappears, man disappears. For man is not the creature of comfort. He is the beast of the abyss, the rope stretched over it, trembling, daring, always on the verge of falling. Danger is the mother of strength, the midwife of greatness. Without the peril of the hunt, the battle, the voyage into the unknown, what remains of man but a bureaucrat with soft hands and dull eyes? America has declared war on danger. It smooths every rough edge, installs warning labels on every object, builds fences around every risk. And so, the human being is treated as a fragile porcelain doll, protected, cushioned, insured, until the muscles of his will atrophy and his instincts grow flabby. A life without danger becomes a life without intensity. I say unto you, better a short, burning existence at the edge of death than a long, tepid survival in safety's cage. For it is in the moments of danger that man awakens, that the blood sings, that the soul feels itself stretched to its highest pitch. It is danger that forces man to create gods, to invent philosophies, to test himself against the impossible. The American dream promises a life without danger, but such a life is also a life without man, where no one dares, no one becomes, where no one risks, no one rises. The death of danger is the death of humanity itself, equality. That golden calf of the American altar, worshipped with more fervor than any god. They chant, all men are created equal. And in this chant, they abolish distinction. They crucify greatness. They deny life itself. For life is inequality. Nature knows nothing of equality. The lion is not equal to the lamb, the eagle not equal to the mole. Inequality is the very pulse of existence, the overflowing abundance of forms and forces. But the American dream builds its palace upon this lie. It whispers, anyone may become anything. It tells the weak that they deserve as much as the strong, the mediocre that they deserve the same crown as the genius. Thus, resentment becomes the law of the land. The herd envies the exceptional, and instead of rising, it pulls him down. Equality is not love of man. It is hatred of the higher man. It is the revenge of the small against the great. And under the banner of equality, America has made suspicion of excellence into a civic virtue. The dream does not want the eagle to soar. It wants the eagle's wings clipped so that he may walk with the chickens and call it fairness. I saw this sickness, the transvaluation by which weakness becomes virtue, and strength becomes sin. The dream is but another mask of slave morality, preaching, no one must rise too high, lest others feel small. But what is a culture that fears the heights? It is a flat plane of mediocrity, endless and dull. Yes, equality is the great lie. Not every man is destined for greatness. Few are. But without those few, the herd itself withers. The dream kills its own future by killing the very soil in which higher beings grow. Beneath the flag with its bright stars and proud stripes beats not the heart of conquerors, but the heart of slaves. The American dream, clothed in patriotic colors, carries within it the same poison that I unmasked in Christianity. The morality of the weak, the resentful, the downtrodden who preach their impotence as virtue. What is this dream, if not the Sermon on the Mount, turned into a credit agreement? It praises humility, hard work, obedience, and patience. Virtues of slaves, virtues of survival, not of creation. It calls sacrifice for the company, dedication, submission to law, civic duty, and envy of the rich, social justice. Always the same trick: to baptize weakness as goodness, to brand strength as evil. The slave morality in America hides behind secular slogans: fairness, equal opportunity, community values. But the psychology is identical to that of the priest who whispered to the slave, "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." The meek inherit nothing. They merely wait until the strong forget their strength. And so, the dream chains men to labor, to conformity, to the herd's approval. The free spirit, the one who dares to say no to the herd, who dares to live beyond its values, is cast out as arrogant, dangerous, un-American. Thus, America repeats the old trick of Christianity. It protects the many by condemning the exceptional. This is why the dream feels holy, almost religious. It is religious. It is a secular church, a civic gospel, a morality of the herd sanctified by prosperity. Under its banner, the will to power is suppressed, tamed, mocked. The dream does not want creators. It wants workers, voters, consumers. It wants slaves draped in stars and stripes, proud of their chains. "Oh, work hard and you shall prosper." This is the commandment of the dream. But what is this work? To sit in fluorescent cages, to shuffle papers, to serve machines, to obey the clock. They call this dignity, but it is the dignity of oxen pulling the plow. I already saw through this deceit. Labor as virtue is the morality of slaves. The Greeks despised labor. They saw it as necessity, as something fit for slaves, so that the few might be free for greatness, for philosophy, for art, for the shaping of destiny. But America reverses this order. Here, the worker is saint, the office is temple, and the paycheck the sacrament. Yet beneath this piety lies exhaustion, resentment, a deep weariness that gnaws at the spirit. Wealth is promised as the prize of toil. But wealth here is not mastery, not the overflowing abundance of a noble life. It is mere accumulation, digits in a bank, possessions that possess their owner. The wealthy man of the dream is no free lord, but a prisoner of his own things, bound to his mortgage, chained to his business, enslaved to his success. And so, the dream turns men into weary animals of burden. They labor not to live, but live to labor. They accumulate wealth not to create, but to consume. The result is not flourishing, but fatigue, not joy, but numbness. Work as worship, wealth as salvation. This is not greatness, it is a religion of exhaustion. Progress. Another idol erected on the altar of the dream. They worship it with graphs and charts, with statistics and slogans. Tomorrow will be better, richer, faster, safer. But what is this progress? It is the endless multiplication of conveniences, the perfection of mediocrity, the expansion of the herd's cage. I warned of the superstition. To believe in progress is to believe in a straight road toward salvation, a secular heaven paved with technology and democracy. But life does not progress. It erupts, it struggles, it breaks, it creates anew. Life is a storm, not a railway line. Yet America clings to the fantasy that more machines, more laws, more equality will somehow lift mankind into paradise. What is improved? Comfort increases, danger decreases, individuality dissolves. The herd grows larger, fatter, more satisfied. And each generation mistakes its padded cell for an advancement over the last. Look, they say, we suffer less, as if suffering were not the very forge of greatness. Progress is the lie that disguises decay as growth. A society that mistakes quantity for quality, that confuses expansion with elevation, is not advancing, it is sinking. The skyscraper grows taller, but the soul shrinks smaller. The machines grow faster, but the will grows weaker. This idol of progress blinds them to the truth. Mankind does not rise by accumulation, but by the creation of higher types, rarer spirits, stronger wills. Progress that avoids danger, suffering, and hierarchy is not progress at all. It is the domestication of man. The marketplace. This is the cathedral of the American dream. Here the herd gathers, dazzled by neon lights, seduced by advertisements, intoxicated by the promise of endless choice. But what kind of choice? The choice between brands of the same trinket, the choice between flavors of the same sugar. Freedom reduced to shopping. This is the new festival of the herd. I foresaw this swarm. Zarathustra spoke of the flies in the marketplace, the buzzing crowd, intoxicated by gossip, greed, and envy. In America, this buzzing has become a roar, a constant hum of commerce where every voice shouts, "Buy me, follow me, believe me." The herd delights in the noise, for the noise protects it from silence, and silence would force it to confront itself. In the marketplace, the individual dissolves. He is no longer a soul, but a customer, no longer a creator, but a consumer. His desires are manufactured, his tastes programmed, his dreams sold back to him at retail price. He mistakes the abundance of commodities for abundance of life, when in truth it is only abundance of distraction. Here, too, mediocrity reigns. The herd does not seek greatness. It seeks entertainment, bargains, approval. It envies those who rise above and instantly demands their descent. The celebrity raised today is torn down tomorrow. The hero turned into gossip. The genius trivialized by advertising. The herd will tolerate no height, only spectacle. And so, the marketplace becomes a swamp of conformity, a carnival of sameness disguised as variety. The individual who dares to withdraw, to think, to create, is treated as suspect, unproductive, antisocial. The herd in the marketplace drowns him in noise. This is the destiny of a culture that worships commerce above creation. It breeds not men, but consumers, not creators, but customers. Democracy, they boast, is the crown of the American dream. But in truth, it is the enthronement of mediocrity. Majority rule. What does this mean? It means the average, the lowest common denominator, the middle ground raised to the highest altar. It means suspicion of all who tower above, persecution of all who dare to be rare. The herd does not love equality, it fears superiority. It hates the genius, the creator, the free spirit, for these reminded of its own smallness. And so, under the banner of fairness, the herd enforces conformity. Excellence is mocked as arrogance, distinction denounced as elitism, strength condemned as oppression. This is the tyranny of mediocrity, the many crushing the few, the flat plain smothering the mountain peak. In such a society, greatness must wear a mask or be stoned. The artist dilutes his vision to please the crowd. The philosopher must soften his words, lest he be silenced. The strong are forced to pretend weakness, the wise to speak in riddles, the noble to stoop. Everywhere the leveling hand, the suspicion of height, the hatred of rank. This is the secret of the dream. It does not want greatness, it wants sameness. It does not want the eagle, it wants the barnyard. And so America breeds citizens, proud to be average, content to be mediocre, hostile to all who disturb their sleep. This tyranny of mediocrity is more suffocating than any king's crown, for it rules not from above, but from within the herd itself. Freedom, a word shouted from every podium, printed on every coin, celebrated in every anthem. Yet what is this freedom of the American dream? It is the freedom of cattle within a fenced meadow. The herd may roam, but never leave the pasture. They say, "You are free to choose." But what are these choices? The choice between two political parties who serve the same herd values. The choice between hundreds of commodities, none of which demand thought, risk, or creation. The choice of lifestyle, which always leads to the same end: a mortgage, a pension, a grave. This freedom is not mastery of the self, but indulgence of appetite. It is the liberty to consume, not the liberty to create. It is the right to obey one's instincts in the shallowest ways, while the deeper will, the will to power, the will to overcome, remains chained. True freedom is dangerous, solitary, demanding. It is the freedom to stand against the herd, to say yes to one's own law even when all others cry no. That freedom America fears above all. Observe. The free spirit, the thinker, the one who dares to question the sacred idols of equality, safety, and progress, he is treated not as free, but as dangerous. His freedom is called extremism, his independence called madness. The dream permits only the freedom that does not threaten the herd. Thus, freedom in America is a mask. Beneath it lies obedience, conformity, sedation. The people are free to choose everything except greatness. They are free to say anything except the truth. They are free to do anything except become who they are. Yes, this freedom is a lie. It liberates the stomach, but enslaves the spirit. It opens every shopping mall, but closes the heights of the soul. What is the true soul of the American dream? It is not faith, not greatness, not destiny. It is nihilism, dressed in patriotic colors. Beneath the stars and stripes lies emptiness, the void of a people who no longer believe in anything higher than comfort. Nihilism is not the absence of things, it is the absence of meaning. And this is precisely what the dream offers: a life filled with possessions, entertainments, distractions, yet hollow at its core. The malls are crowded, the television's bright, the phones buzzing endlessly. But ask, why? For what? Toward what? Silence answers. I foresaw this desert of the soul. He spoke of the time when all old values had collapsed, when God was dead and no new gods had yet arisen. America, in its worship of consumption, is the perfect picture of this prophecy. It is a land drunk on things, but starving for purpose. Here, nihilism wears the mask of happiness. Be happy, the billboards shout. Enjoy life, the commercials preach. But this happiness is only distraction from the terror of emptiness. The dream teaches men to laugh loudly, so they cannot hear the silence of their own hollowness. Even morality has become a shell. Right and wrong are decided not by strength or truth, but by opinion polls and market research. Values are products, sold and discarded like fashion trends. Nothing is sacred except the void itself, endlessly covered in red, white, and blue. This is America's secret. Beneath its glittering abundance, it is starving. Its flag waves proudly over a kingdom of nihilism. It has killed its god, but has not yet birthed the Übermensch. It survives on distractions, but creates nothing higher. It is fullness of stomach and emptiness of soul. Comfort is not strength. It is the velvet glove that hides decay. Look at history. Every great civilization, when it grew weary, turned to comfort. Rome traded the sword for the bathhouse, the legion for the amphitheater. Its citizens desired bread and circuses, not conquest, not destiny. And so they softened, and so they fell. America follows the same path. It boasts of its prosperity, its luxuries, its endless supply of goods. But these are not signs of health. They are signs of exhaustion. A people that worships comfort has already grown tired of life. Comfort is not life. It is preparation for death. I named this decadence, the point when the instincts of a culture turn against its own vitality. When what once was strength becomes weakness. When survival is valued more than creation. When the herd grows fat while the spirit starves. Decadence is not poverty. It is the sickness of abundance. Comfort breeds softness. Softness breeds cowardice. Cowardice breeds collapse. A man who cannot endure hunger will never endure greatness. A people who cannot face danger will never create destiny. By chasing comfort, America writes its own obituary, line by line, commercial by commercial, gadget by gadget. Decay does not begin with ruins, it begins with cushions. When the struggle for life is replaced by the avoidance of struggle, the future has already been forfeited. Comfort is the perfume sprayed over the corpse of a culture. Life itself is will to power, the surge, the expansion, the overflowing of strength. Every living thing seeks not safety, but expression, conquest, growth. The tree thrusts its roots through stone, the storm tears at the mountains, the artist smashes the silence with his vision. To live is to dare. But America has chosen another will. Not the will to power, but the will to security. Its highest aspiration is not greatness, but safety. Its dream is not to overflow, but to preserve. It builds walls, laws, insurances, protections, not to create, but to shield. In this reversal lies its sickness. The will to security is the instinct of the weak. It says, do not risk, do not climb, do not strive. Stay safe, stay small, stay obedient. It would rather survive in chains than perish in freedom. It fears pain more than it desires greatness. It worships life not as intensity, but as mere duration. What kind of man is born of this will? A cautious one, timid, dependent. He calculates instead of daring, obeys instead of commanding, consumes instead of creating. He is a shadow of man, a pale copy, a ghost who calls his prison walls protection. And what kind of culture arises from such men? A herd without shepherds, a state without visionaries, a people without destiny. The will to security produces stagnation, mediocrity, and ultimately, extinction. Only the will to power gives life its meaning. Only by risking can man rise. Only by overflowing can he create new values. To choose security over power is to choose death while still breathing. America, in its worship of safety, has chosen death in life. Its dream is not a vision of power, but a prescription for decay. Zarathustra warned, beware the last man. He is the creature of comfort, the worshiper of safety, the satisfied insect who blinks and says, we have invented happiness. And what is America today if not the kingdom of the last man no longer desires to climb, to struggle, to suffer. He says, why climb mountains when we can build elevators? Why fight when we can negotiate? Why create when we can consume? He seeks only warmth, food, entertainment, and a little security before death. His eyes no longer blaze with hunger for greatness. They flicker with the pale light of television screens. In the dream, the last man has triumphed. He is proud of his mediocrity, proud of his sameness, proud that nothing truly matters. He scoffs at heroes, he mocks saints, he laughs at prophets. He calls ambition arrogance, danger irresponsibility, suffering pointless. For him, the highest virtue is to offend no one, to disturb nothing, to stay comfortable until the grave. But I spat at this vision. For where the last man rules, man ceases. Better a people that risks destruction than a people that chooses this eternal sleep. The last man is not the end of history, it is the end of man. And yet America exalts him. It teaches its children to become him. It baptizes his mediocrity in slogans of equality, safety, and comfort. The dream has made the last man its ideal citizen, its model human, its God. Against the last man, I raise the figure of the Übermensch, the creator, the destroyer, the one who dares to dance on the abyss. The choice is clear. Either America breeds last men, or it dares to give birth to something higher. What smashes the American dream? Not poverty, not revolution, not collapse of markets, but the advent of the Übermensch. For the Übermensch is the hammer that shatters all false idols, the storm that scatters the paper temples of comfort and safety. The dream promises, work, obey, consume, and you shall be rewarded with comfort. But the Übermensch does not want comfort. He wants creation. He does not seek safety. He seeks danger, risk, the joy of dancing on the edge of the abyss. He is not content to inherit the values of the herd. He forges new values in the fire of his will. The dream is built on sameness. The Übermensch is the exception, the singular, the higher type who towers above the herd like a mountain above the plain. The dream is built on equality. The Übermensch is hierarchy incarnate, the one who gives measure to mankind by surpassing it. The dream is built on survival. The Übermensch is built on overflowing life, on excess, on the affirmation of existence, even in its most terrible forms. Therefore, when the Übermensch appears, the dream is exposed as what it always was, a lie told to soothe the weak. The Übermensch does not dream. He awakens. He smashes comfort. He desecrates safety. He scorches mediocrity with the fire of his being. Yes, the American dream must die, for only upon its ruins can the Übermensch rise. Imagine this, that every moment of your life must return again eternally. Every sigh, every purchase, every evening in front of the glowing screen, again and again, without end. This is I's terrible question, his test of all values. Would you will it so? Now apply this to the American dream. Would you choose forever the mortgage, the traffic jam, the cubicle, the shopping mall? Would you will eternal recurrence of office coffee, sitcom laughter, political slogans, and supermarket aisles? The very thought is suffocating. The dream, when placed before the abyss of recurrence, reveals its true face, not joy, not affirmation, but dread. For the one who loves life, who embraces danger and creation, recurrence is ecstasy. Yes, let it all return, for even the suffering was glorious. But for the dreamer, recurrence is hell. To repeat comfort endlessly is to suffocate in one's own pillow, to drown in sugar and softness, to rot in safety for all eternity. Thus, The eternal recurrence unmasks the dream. It shows that no one would choose it eternally, that it is not life-affirming but life-denying. It is a narcotic, not a destiny. It is tolerated only because it is temporary. But if forced to repeat forever, it becomes unbearable. Only a culture of greatness can pass this test. Only a life of struggle, danger, and creation is worthy of eternal recurrence. The dream fails. It is not something one would will eternally. It is something one endures while waiting for death. America loves to call itself the future, the model for all mankind. But what if it is not the future? What if it is the warning? What if its glittering dream is not destiny, but disease? For already the dream spreads like a contagion. Nations imitate its consumerism, its worship of equality, its obsession with safety. The idols of comfort, entertainment, and mediocrity are exported across oceans, wrapped in advertisements and glowing screens. And peoples once fierce, once hungry, once creators of their own values, are seduced into slumber by this narcotic dream. Thus, America threatens not only itself, but the entire earth. If its dream becomes universal, then the last man becomes universal. Then mankind itself withers, not through war or catastrophe, but through softness, through an endless sleep of comfort in which no one dares, no one creates, no one rises. I speak of nihilism as a European sickness, born from the death of God. But America has perfected it, industrialized it, globalized it. Its dream is nihilism in carnival form, packaged for export, sold as progress. And the nations that buy it do not see that they are buying their own decline. People cannot live without myth. Myths are not lies. They are the fires in which a culture forges its destiny. The American dream is such a myth, but it is a myth of decline. It teaches comfort, not courage, sameness, not struggle, safety, not greatness. If mankind is to rise again, this dream must be shattered and replaced with a new fire. What would such a myth proclaim? Not equality, but hierarchy. Not comfort, but creation. Not safety, but danger. It would say to man, you are not here to be comfortable. You are here to become. It would demand of him not obedience, but overflow. It would teach that life's highest good is not survival, but transformation. This new myth must reawaken the tragic wisdom of the ancients, that suffering is not an evil to be avoided, but the crucible of greatness. It must sing of the joy of risk, the sacredness of struggle, the glory of ascent. It must produce not consumers, but creators, not voters, but visionaries, not last men, but overmen. In place of the dream's soft pillow, it must give mankind the mountain path. In place of security, the storm. In place of endless distraction, the eternal recurrence of the real. For only through danger does man discover his strength. Only through struggle does he awaken his will. Only through tragedy does he rise to joy. Let the old dream be buried. Let a new myth blaze forth. A myth not of the herd, but of the Creator. Not of comfort, but of conquest. Only then will man cease to rot in mediocrity and begin again to climb toward the heights. If the American dream is a lie, what then? Shall mankind live without myths, without visions, without horizons? No, for man cannot live without meaning. When the old gods fall, new gods must rise. When the dream collapses, a greater vision must take its place. I did not call us to despair. He called us to creation. The task is not to weep over the ruins of the dream, but to forge a new myth. A myth not of comfort, but of greatness. Not of equality, but of hierarchy. Not of safety, but of danger. The myth of the Übermensch. What would such a myth demand? It would demand struggle instead of sedation, mountains instead of couches, storms instead of fences. It would demand that men stop seeking to be protected and instead dare to become protectors of their own destiny. It would demand new festivals, not of consumption, but of creation, not of shopping, but of soaring. The new myth would not flatter the herd. It would not whisper that all are equal. It would proclaim that some must rise, that mankind is a bridge, not an end. It would summon those rare spirits who burn with the will to power, who dare to transvaluate values, who are willing to live dangerously and affirm even the terror of existence. Such a myth would not soothe, it would ignite. It would not console, it would command. It would teach mankind again to love life not as a pillow, but as a battlefield. And it would give the world what the dream could never give, not comfort, but destiny. For only when the dream is shattered can man awaken. Only when the lie dies can truth be born. Bring the idol of the American dream before me. Place it on the anvil. Hear its hollow echo. How empty it rings. It promises life, yet delivers only sedation. It promises freedom, yet binds the spirit. It promises greatness, yet breeds mediocrity. And now, let the hammer fall. One strike for comfort, which has rotted the marrow of man. Another strike for safety, which has chained his will. A third for equality, which has leveled his heights. And at last, a strike for freedom, the greatest lie of all, which cloaks obedience in shining words. The idol shatters into fragments, cheap plaster dust beneath the hammer. Do you hear it? That's silence after the crash. That is truth. For when the idol is gone, what remains is life itself. Raw, dangerous, unpadded, overflowing. No more illusions, no more narcotics, no more dreams of sleep. Only the abyss, only the struggle, only the fire of becoming. Yes, comfort is decay. Yes, safety is slavery. Let the dream be buried with the other corpses of false gods. And let man, awakened and unchained, rise from the ruins. At last free, not to dream, but to create.